Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain.
Hello, hello, all you happy dancers. I see you, Theo, dancing away in the chat. I do that too. When the song is playing, I'm doing my chair dance. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Oh shit, my audio is loud. Let me get that under control. I am joined today by the lovely and talented and sparkly and other adjectives, I'm sure, Ms. Lilith. How are you this morning?
I am good. Ish.
Hello.
I was sick yesterday, so I'm still not feeling great, but I'm better than I was, so we'll see.
I know the feeling. And we also have returning after a short break, the one and only atheist queen of Detroit, Ms. Kelly King. How are you?
Who missed me? I am great.
I did.
Oh,
I always miss you.
too. I miss you too. I like to feel love a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I love it when my friends stop by. It makes the show more fun, in my opinion. Which, because I have the buttons, is the opinion that counts. I'm getting all dictatorial up in here.
Truth.
Hey, you're allowed to a little bit.
Thank you all so much for joining us. I do have to make a special announcement. We do, for the very first time, have a sponsor. Yes, it's true. It's not true, but we'll pretend it's true. I can't even
Adam and
pretend
Eve.
to grip. I am bad at this. So this broadcast is not brought to you by Turning Point USA's Faith and Fellowship dating app. Now, let me make this big so y'all can see this very, very clearly. This is a social media post from Erica Kirk's Twitter. And it says, after losing Charlie last week, this is dated September 17th. So within days, after losing Charlie last week, I wasn't sure how to move forward, but God put a new mission in my heart, helping young Christians find one another. That's why I'm proud to introduce Faith and Fellowship, our new dating app. And yes, I'm on it too. So,
Yeah.
I'm not really surprised though about all this.
What? Okay, to be clear,
It sounds exactly like something they would do. It really does.
I mean, because I am an actual journalist, I put on my journalist hat, which incidentally is this one today, apparently. I put on my journalist hat and I looked. First, I went to the Twitter account, Mrs. Erica Kirk. And as horrible as it is, steadfast in faith, social entrepreneur, proclaims streetwear. So she does have a grift. It's just not that grift. But I looked back through her posts and there's nothing about that there. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen, because posts can be deleted, especially off of Lies Social. I mean, Twitter, whatever, that website, Elon's festival. So I looked in the App Store. There is no such app. There is no Turning Point, Truth and Fellowship, or whatever the fuck. However, the closest I could find was called Christian Dating, Faith and Fellowship. But this is not a rebrand of that, because there are reviews on this app from June, predating the incident. So this is clearly something that already existed. Ergo, this is not true. But I wanted to bring it up because, first of all, our side fact checks things. And that's interesting because, like, bullshit like this posted in the other direction just gets spread like wildfire. Whereas every single place I've seen this posted, it's a call out that it's fake, because delightfully, people on our side do fact check. The second reason is, of course, for laughs, because it's so believable. But that's the third thing, is we do have to have a care of our own biases as critical thinkers, as skeptics. We have to be aware that we're inclined to believe horrible things about the horrible people who do those same horrible things all the time, just because it's completely in character for them. Total hypocrisy, total betrayal of all their values, blatant cash grab, doesn't mean it's necessarily true. So we have to keep that in mind. But I thought it would be fun to open the show with, because, well, honestly, I thought I could run the show is sponsored by joke a little farther before my integrity got the better of me. I'm just bad at this. I keep saying if I had less morals, I would make an amazing preacher, because I know all the apologetic arguments better than the apologists do, but I just can't freaking do it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, honestly, I think we all. And one thing that I've noticed that's actually really funny about atheists versus Christians, we tend to know their Bible better than they do.
Yeah, well, that is exactly generally true, because the main reason most deconverts, there are two flavors of atheists. There's the people who never believed, and there's the people who deconverted. And the deconverts are by far the larger population, because there's so many more Christians in the first place. So people who stop being Christian make up a bigger proportion of the atheists. The main reason people become deconvert atheists is because they read the damn book. If you read the book, it's almost impossible to stay a believer, which is why they don't read it.
Even then, one thing I've noticed, I mean, obviously, like, I don't have numbers for it, but one thing I've noticed is it's always people who tend to be more on the charismatic or evangelical or fundamentalist side that tend to go atheist. And I think honestly it's because their worldview is so like limited and it's so easy to debunk that once they realize, oh crap, this stuff isn't true, like everything falls apart. Which is pretty much what happened with me. So
yeah, I've heard so many deconversion stories. Like Godless Granny, for example, has mentioned a few times. Kelly, that Kelly and I met in Kentucky. It was understanding that the flood was fictional that caused her faith to start to crumble. AJ, that's what you get for being late. Now you know you can rewind the video. You could watch back from the beginning. Yes, it's fake. I was
the
I
fact
was
that
both
we even
making
have to
fun
question
and
it is
expounding
telling.
on how we have this habit as humans. It's a human thing. It's not a left thing. It's not a right thing. It's not a Christian thing. It's not an atheist thing. We are inclined to accept without evidence things that align with our preconceived views of how the other people are, how horrible they are. It confirms our biases. And so we have to be careful of them too. But it is hilarious. So yeah, I thought I would open the show with that. But speaking of horrible apologist arguments, our actual topic for today is Trent Horn, Catholic apologist, who's planning on taking on Bill Nye about whether women are allowed to do what we want with our own bodies, because he has a magic
I can
book
tell
that
you
says
right
so.
now, I am going to have opinions.
Yeah, I already know.
Opinions.
I already know.
I know. I almost saved this one for a Feminist Friday, but I'm like, it's not really. It's like half feminism, half counter apologetics. So I'm like, we can just do it on a Thursday. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Goodness knows, there's plenty of things to talk about on feminism specifically for our Friday shows. Wowzers! But shoot. There's right. I'm doing a thing sometime in the indeterminate future. It's currently scheduled for next Tuesday, but we've already rescheduled it 6 freaking times. So who knows when it'll actually happen. I'm going on Ethan's channel, Your Neighborhood Friendly Atheist, something like that.
Okay.
With another person. And we're going to look at some, I don't know how to describe this person. She's super gender critical, but presents herself as a moderate. Like, supremely dishonestly. It's ridiculously wild. But the point of that show is to take these moderate, very common sense seeming positions in propaganda and show how they are propaganda. The point is not to counter a gender critical. It's to use this steel man version of a conspiracy theorist's arguments to show how we can all recognize propaganda, to help with our skepticism and critical thinking, whatever it is we're dealing with. So I've been constructing these super basic rules of critical skepticism. And I'm going to try to apply some of those to Trent's arguments today to help kind of firm things up, round them out, all that sorts of thing. So we'll see how that goes. And also keep an eye out for that upcoming show that will eventually happen, possibly next week. We'll see. All right. So this Trent does like a minute and a half of, oh, I'm stuck at home. Yeah. But we're going to try to do new shows, etc. And then he actually starts the video.
Many more hundreds of eggs are fertilized than become humans. Eggs get fertilized.
Okay, right off the bat, it's been less than 10 seconds. We already have a scientific error.
Right off the bat, it's been less than 10 seconds, and we already have a logical error. Because Trent is trying to conflate one definition of human with another. Bill is very clearly saying that a fetus is different from a full-born, live-grown adult human. They are different things that have different needs and different requirements. And Trent immediately tries to not only say he's wrong without hearing out what he means and why, but he's equivocating, which is a fallacy on the word human. Trent's going to say something along the lines of, oh, it has human DNA, therefore it's human. But that's not the only criterion that makes a human, and Trent fucking knows it. He's being a dishonest douche canoe immediately. He cannot help it. I want to say I love it, but I hate it.
Sarcastic, but Trent is a medical doctor, is a scientist as well, right?
Who is what now?
His name Trent.
Trent Horn. He's a Catholic apologist.
That's what I'm saying. I say,
if
so
he has any
he's
other
a medical
I'm not aware.
doctor or scientist as well.
I don't believe Trent is.
I know that he's not. I'm just being sarcastic. For him to talk something he's not right medically, scientifically, you must have that same kind of degree.
Let's see. Trent Horn has a master's in theology and philosophy, a bachelor's in history, and is working on a master's in bioethics, apparently.
Okay, well, yeah. So nothing scientific or medical for him to spew this rhetoric. No. Okay, continue.
Yeah,
that's
he
the way
fancies
it
himself
usually
a philosopher.
Yeah, that's how it usually is, yeah.
Bill Nye is using the word human in a scientific sense. And here's the problem here. When people say they have a scientific argument for legal abortion, well, that's still you.
But Bill did not say that. He didn't say, I'm presenting a scientific argument for legal abortion. Trent is there's a lot tied up in this because Trent does know rhetoric. He's not a stupid man, just a deeply, deeply dishonest man. And this is a straw man. It's taking Bill's position and re-representing it as something that Bill didn't claim it is, so that it's easier for Trent to knock down.
You can't have a scientific argument for or against abortion because science only tells us what things are or how they work. It doesn't tell us how we ought to live our lives or what we ought to do. So,
well, yes and no. Again,
it can tell you what's harmful and what's not.
Science can tell us based on our priorities what we ought to do. Like the science doesn't insert the ought as in the what your priorities should be. But if your priority is, for example, bodily autonomy for all people, then science can help us determine what we ought to do in order to further that principle. The is-ought problem, as philosophy puts it, is that you can't take statements of fact and derive an ought, a what you should do, except you can if you insert another statement, a moral statement, an ethical statement, a priority, a value judgment, some way to discern what constitutes an ought. And once you have that, then yes, science absolutely can get you an ought. Kip says, having had personal interactions with Trent Horn, I can confirm he is not a stupid man. Indeed. I mean, I haven't interacted with him personally, but this is not the first rodeo with Trent on this channel. He's, he does think more highly of himself.
This is not an area he's qualified for, though.
Like, we'll see in a moment. We'll see in a moment.
Science cannot give us ethical principles. I'm sure I'll have to make another rebuttal video to Sam Harris on that point. Maybe I'll do that sometime in the future. But right off the bat, if Bill Nye, he's either being irrelevant or completely wrong. So if he's using the word human in the philosophical sense, okay, you'll have to give an argument for that. But if he's talking about human in the scientific sense, like member of the species Homo sapiens, then saying that an embryo becomes human, that's just flat out wrong. Human embryos conceived from human sperm and human egg are...
And this is another fallacy called begging the question. Which is Trent is asserting that fetuses are human because they have human DNA, and that's the only criteria, and it should be the only criteria because fetuses are human. He's inserting his conclusion as the first premise, and that's a fallacy. So he fancies himself a philosopher. He's bad at it, though.
Human. And the best source that I like to point people to on this are professional pro-choice advocates, like the leading intellectual pro-choice advocates instantly recognize this. Like, I'll give you an example of two. First would be David Boonin. He's a dean actually now, but prior to that, he was a professor of philosophy at CU Boulder, and he wrote probably one of the most sophisticated defenses of abortion, a book called, as you guessed it, A Defense of Abortion. And here's what he says at the very, very beginning of the book. It's like page 20. He says, "The most straightforward relation between you and me on the one hand and every human fetus on the other is this." So what's the relationship between us and every human fetus? "All are living members of the same species, Homo sapiens. A human fetus, after all, is simply a human being at a very early stage in his or her development. So embryos don't become human. They are human beings that continue to develop." Now
Okay, now, as I said, I'm developing like rules for critical thought, for dealing with conspiracy theory, pseudoscience, counter-apologetics, because it's all the same thing when you get right down to it. And y'all have heard from countless places, countless sources, check the quotes, check the sources, because they cherry pick, they edit the quotes, they do all these things because they're so fucking deeply dishonest. So yes, rule number 2, check the quotes. Would you care to take, in fact, let's put a poll in the chat. I started a poll running at the very beginning. Who gets to determine whether a person carries a baby? And the options were the government, mythological invisible friends, the other parent, or the person carrying it plus their physicians. And 100% of the vote was the person carrying it gets to determine whether a person carries a baby. So good job on you, chat. You nailed that one. All right. So let's see. How do I want to phrase this? Did Trent edit the quote, lie about the quote? Actually, let's make that misrepresent the quote. Misrepresent the quote. Let's see.
AJ just made a good point that said, well, dead people are also human, but they're not alive.
Right. By Trent's criteria. Yeah. It's that's a human too. All right, I'll just start the poll with the 3 options. So there are a few different ways this is often handled. The first is they will just paraphrase something to the point of unrecognizability. There's actual quotation marks, and Trent says this is what the author says. So it's a fair bet this isn't completely fabricated. But there's a couple other things. They will deceptively edit a quote. They won't just cherry pick something they're specifically looking for, but they'll also cut words off of the end. Sometimes you'll see ellipses where words are left out so they can make a quote say something other than what it says. We don't see that in this case, but we do see it starts with a lowercase t. This is not the beginning of the sentence at the start of this quote. And so that can be a warning sign, but not always. Sometimes they'll capitalize the T because they're already lying. Why not keep doing it with the pretense of telling the truth? Another possibility is that he's completely misrepresenting what the quote says. Like as a for example, if I were to take this video of Trent reading the quote and then say Trent said that, because Trent did say that. The words came out of his mouth, but he's reading the quote from a book. So it's not really honest or accurate to say Trent said that, although he literally did say that. So with those and there's other possibilities too, but let's just as a real quick, with all that on the table, the poll came out, 10% said fake the quote, 20% said edit the quote, and 70% said misrepresent the quote. So let's pop over here. And the first thing we need to do is look up the quote. Where did it come from? And so I took the author of the book and the end of the sentence because it was quicker and easier to type. A human fetus, after all, is simply a human being at a very early stage in his or her development, as a quote. So it'll bring up the whole quote. And it turns out Christian pro-life source, Catholic source, Christian pro-life, or that Christian pro-life, but also a Catholic source, thinking critically about it. It's all Catholic and pro-life sources parroting this quote. So except for this one, pdfcoffee.com, David Boonin, A Defense of Abortion. Well, that's interesting. That's fascinating. So let's have a look there. Maybe we can find this quote. So here's the page, and the damn thing has gotten away on me here. There it is. Okay, so here's our highlighted section. I didn't even have to type in the whole thing before it popped right up. And it's perhaps the most straightforward relation between you or me on the one hand, and every human fetus from conception onward on the other is this. All are living members of the same species, Homo sapiens. A human fetus, after all, is simply a human being at a very early stage of his or her development. Okay, so one note, the start of that sentence, the missing word at the start of that sentence is perhaps. So he didn't say the thing, he said perhaps the thing. And then he goes on after all of that. A defender of abortion, of course, could reject this characterization of the human fetus. The fetus, it might be said, is not yet an individual living organism or is not yet a member of the human species. Perhaps, again, perhaps, it is only a potential human being. So he's not saying that is the thing. He's weighing arguments. And more importantly, he goes on to say, however, as I note later, Marquis is not the only or even first philosopher to have endorsed this sort of argument. He's not even talking about his own ideas. He's paraphrasing another fellow that he's referenced in the previous section called Donald Marquis, who wrote an article called Why Abortion is Immoral. He's paraphrasing a pre-existing thing, not saying the thing itself like Trent says he did. So.
That's pretty typical. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Check the quotes. This one, we had to go slightly deeper than usual. With creationists, flat earthers, those sorts of people, often the lie is apparent right on the surface. It's like, I think Dapper and MC Toon say something like, read the next sentence. You know, that's usually all it takes. In this case, we had to read a couple extra sentences and then take a look at what the hell the author was talking about. We had to go back a section to find that he was paraphrasing someone else's article. But still, we didn't even have to flip the page. It was on the same page explaining that Trent, now to be fair to Trent, he may not be deliberately lying in this case. Remember, we saw all those Google searches that showed the same quote over and over and over, misrepresented in exactly the same way. Trent may just be so intellectually lazy, he saw the quote on catholicanswers.org or whatever and said, oh, surely they wouldn't misrepresent something because they're the Catholic Church. I'll just take their word for it, not check it at all, and parrot it as fact, including the page 20 citation. So it may not be deliberate dishonesty on Trent Horn's part. It could be intellectual laziness. But it's one of those. Which
either way, it shouldn't happen.
Yeah, to be clear, that does not make Trent wrong. It just makes him not trustworthy.
You can argue about their personhood. Maybe I'll get into that in a future video. But right now, they're clearly human beings. Peter Singer is another example of this. I love the stash that Singer used to rock way back in the day. This is the second edition of Practical Ethics. It doesn't really differ that much from the third and more recent editions. But I met Peter Singer. Gosh, I met him like 13 years ago when he was giving a lecture at Arizona State University. He's dropped the mustache, obviously, decades ago, but I love it.
I don't know why we're going on and on about Pete Singer's appearance, whatever. But we can see the same thing here. There's a quote. Trent's going to misrepresent what the quote is saying. And this one has those happy little ellipses at the end to show that there's more quote that we're not being told.
But, this is... Peter Singer's a smart guy. I respect the fact that he's smart and willing to think outside the box, even though he's super wrong on a lot of things.
Also, it's interesting. Maybe it's an intentional misdirection. Now, I'm speculating here. I'm not saying this is definitely what Trent is doing, but maybe all the discussion about Pete's appearance back in the day is a distraction from the fact that why are we going all the way back to the second edition? Why aren't we using the current edition? Because the current edition might not be so easy to cherry pick.
He's right about one thing. He says, whether a being is a member of a given species is something that can be determined scientifically by an examination of the nature of the chromosome in the cells of living organisms. In this sense, there is no doubt that from the first moments of its existence, an embryo conceived from human sperm and eggs is a human being. You'll notice also
it has human DNA. Awesome. Yeah. As AJ said, so do dead people.
So I've seen some atheists rip pro-lifers when they quote this from Singer. The pro-lifers put a period here instead of an ellipses. Singer goes on to say that this is also true of anencephalic infants. So an infant who is born without an upper brain is a biological human being, and that's absolutely right.
Okay, points to Trent for saying the rest of the quote. I did not look this one up myself because I can't look up every single piece of bullshit. I spent so much time this morning, like, digging to find the actual text the first one came from. And that's the bitch of it. This is Brandolini's law at work. People can just offhandedly drop some bullshit on the table, and it takes 10 times as much effort to refute the bullshit. To clean up the mess is a lot harder than to make it. And I just did not have enough time to have breakfast, take my medicine, get ready, and dig up every single freaking lie. It just... So, but points to Trent for pointing out that that's not the whole quote, at least in this case.
And then we may disagree about personhood. I think every biological human being is a person, but that is a separate matter. The point is, Singer would agree that any individual member of our species is a biological human being. It's the same, and the same is true for...
What do you mean by, of course, a biological human being? What are you trying to... He's just throwing in extra words to make it sound more scientific. Human beings are intrinsically biological. We do not have artificial human beings. Why are you using that word? What do you mean?
Or human organisms before birth or shortly after conception that Bill Nye's talking about.
Right, they're genetically human. Very good. But do they have personhood? Are they persons? Are they people? Are they full humans capable of feeling and emotion and experiencing and so forth? But also, this is another fun fallacy called a red herring, because it doesn't actually matter whether or not a fetus or an embryo or whatever the fuck is a full sentient self-aware being entitled to all the rights of being a full sentient self-aware being. Doesn't make any difference as to whether they're entitled to the body of a different sentient self-aware being. That's not the actual argument.
And by that I mean sperm get accepted by ova a lot. But that's not all you need. You have to attach to the uterine wall, the inside of a womb. A woman.
Well, that's like saying babies get taken home from the hospital all the time, but that's not all that you need. The baby has to eat food and not die in their sleep in their crib. Sometimes that happens. Kids die from sudden infant death syndrome. Does that mean that babies aren't human just because there's fatal hazards that await them? As we go further, you'll see that Bill...
Okay.
There's a lot wrong here.
Oh my God.
He is misrepresenting the situation. He's mischaracterizing Bill's argument. This is another form of straw manification or shadow boxing, if you prefer. He's fighting an argument Bill isn't making and pretending he's winning. Bill is pointing out that fertilized eggs get flushed out all the time because if they don't implant, they never develop. It's not the same thing at all.
Nye's main argument.
Let's Farm points out that malignant cancerous tumors also have human DNA. Are they fully human and deserving of rights, Trent? Holy shit.
On this point is really bad. I call it the argument from mortality, and I hear it all the time, so we'll let him unspool a bit.
I call it the argument from mortality. Trent is just making up his own fallacies now and pretending they're legitimate ways to rule out arguments. Awesome. Maybe we should come up with the argumentum ad Trentitum, which would be, I'm just going to say shit and therefore it's true. Well, I suppose that would be the argumentum ad Trumpum. I have a Sharpie. I'm going to draw a circle and that'll just be where the hurricane goes.
But if you're going to hold that as a standard...
That was like the most... I was about to say, that was just like the most ridiculous... That was one of the most ridiculous things that came out of the last time he was in office was the whole Sharpie Gate thing. It's like, oh my god, dude. Really?
I suspect that kind of thing is intentional. I mean, it is a sign of mental decline for sure, but it could also be because if he does silly, ridiculous, generally harmless things, I mean, yeah, that's not harmless because it changes where federal response goes and so forth. But it's mostly just silly. Then people tend to think of him as just a silly, dopey grandpa figure who's not actually a real threat.
Yeah.
Waste of human.
Yeah, but still, it was just like, you guys can't see that this is complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah, it's all rhetoric. It's all presentation. AJ points out something like 50% of pregnancies end in miscarriage before the mother even realizes she's pregnant. And that, yeah. I don't know
looks
that
like
it's
we have
exactly
straight
50%, but it
fanboy.
is a high percentage, which is the point. Let's look it up just for fun. How many pregnancies end in why can't I type? Let's say at 6
Have you had your
weeks.
coffee yet?
In one study, researchers found a miscarriage rate of 9.4% at or before 6 weeks, another 4.2% at 7 weeks, and then 1.5 at 8 weeks. And then the percents continue dropping. However, this doesn't include situations in which you lose the fertilized egg before a pregnancy even becomes established. And that's from a site called babycenter.com. So I don't know what accurate the study might be. March of Dimes says between 10 to 20% end in miscarriage. Some research suggests more than 30%. It's hard to find exact statistics, particularly on the before you even realize you're pregnant thing. ACOG, the American College of Gynecology, if I remember correctly, ACOG. I just learned about them from Dr. Ben the other day. For women over 40, 1 in 3 pregnancies end in miscarriage, period. One in NHS UK says 1 in 8 pregnancies will end in miscarriage. Many miscarriages happen before someone knows they're pregnant, but it doesn't give hard numbers. It's rough. It's rough. So maybe we just don't have hard numbers, because if the parent doesn't know they're pregnant yet, how would they be able to report that they had a miscarriage, you know? So,
yeah, exactly.
It's hard to say.
Just to say, if you're going to say, when an egg is fertilized, it's therefore has the same rights as an individual, then whom are you going to sue? Whom are you going to imprison? Every woman who's had a fertilized egg pass through her? Every guy whose sperm has fertilized an egg and then it didn't become a human? Have all these people failed you? It's just a reflection of a deep scientific lack of understanding.
Okay, let's look at Bill Nye's argument. So this is the basic argument. If a group of human beings has a high mortality...
That is not Bill Nye's argument. I'm
oh my God.
But he's like overtly, dishonestly, like he's not even pretending to build a straw man. He's just straight up, well, if you say that you don't like oranges, that means you hate all fruit, right? Like, no, that's clearly not what was said. What do you mean?
Rate, this means they aren't human. And that's basically the argument he's making. I've heard different statistics put forward. I can't recall Bill giving a specific percentage. I've heard 1/3 to 1/2 of embryos do not implant in the womb and are miscarried. Now, other embryologists will say that we don't know how many of these embryos are human beings. Some of them might be uncontrolled cellular growths that are not actually human organisms. So that's actually disputed among embryologists, how many of them, the ones that die, are actually organisms rather than just uncontrolled cellular growth.
Can you die before you're actually alive? Like, because, people like Trent insist that life begins at first breath. I mean, he'll say conception for political and rhetorical purposes, but according to his magic book, which he claims is infallibly true, life begins at first breath. And the science seems to bear that out. But never mind that. Like, if you're not yet alive, can you die? Now that's a philosophical question.
But even if let's grant Bill Nye's point. Let's say it was like 50%, like half of all fully developed human embryos. I don't even think it's that high, but let's say half of them fail to implant. Half of all embryos at this stage.
Also, fun fact, the way Trent worded that, and again, remember, folks, I'm doing this on the fly. I researched the first thing as an example, but I don't have time to dig into all of these things. I'm coming up with these counters off the top of my head out of pure skepticism. Look at the argument. If a group of human beings has a high mortality rate, this means they aren't human. Do human beings die? I'm pretty sure all human beings die. The mortality rate for all human beings on a long enough time scale is 100%. So by Trent's reasoning,
so nobody's human then.
Every group of humans aren't human. It's self-contradictory. It's self-refuting. If you just look at the first level of entailments, it's self-refuting. Good job, Mr. Philosopher. Holy shit.
Age of life die prematurely. The argument is that a group of human beings are not persons if they have a high mortality rate. This is clearly a bad argument. Your mortality rate does not determine your value or your personhood. By that logic, 100% of human beings will die before they reach the age of 125 or 130. Does that mean...
Oh, Trent noticed that he's proposed a bad argument, and yet he still chose to propose... I mean, he prepared a slide. What are we doing? Okay, maybe he has a counter. Maybe I have rushed to judgment, and he has a way to save his intentional mischaracterization of Bill Nye's argument. Maybe. We'll see.
All of us are not persons because we all have a 100% mortality rate at a certain age? Of course not. And here's the counterexample I would give to Bill Nye. When you look through human history, child mortality used to be obscenely high. Obscenely high. That this was true up through the Middle Ages, even up until the 19th century. And it's still true today in some rural parts of the world. You go to rural parts of Afghanistan and other parts of the developing world.
Correct. Take a guess on how this relates to Trent's shadowboxing match. I bet he's going to say, my bet, place your nickels on the table, make your bets. My bet is that he's going to say, since children often die, children aren't human. And the fun fact about that is, in those cultures where child mortality is really, really high, or has been in the past, in those time periods, children weren't considered fully human. There's cultures, including European cultures, where you didn't name your child until their second birthday because the mortality rate was so high. So you didn't consider them to even be really alive.
That's exactly, that's
until they stuck around a while.
And I mean, even then, like, it could be like 3 or 4 years later when they're just like, okay, and like they get that attachment to their kids because of that. And the mortality rate was obscenely high. It was something like 50% to make it to like 18. It's obscenely high.
Yeah. And guess what changed that? Guess what influences, what factors lower child and infant mortality rates? I'll give you a hint.
Bible printing?
That's right. It's Bible passages. All the secrets are not in the fucking Bible.
It's one of those things that you look at it from the modern perspective, that science has come so far and medical science has come so far that we live longer and healthier, and people who would have quickly died 100 years ago can live full and relatively healthy lives now. That it's not a problem. Like, it's amazing how far our medical knowledge has come, even in like the last 100 years.
Oh yeah, we hugely take it for granted. In fact, I frequently point out that if not for antibiotics, I'd already be dead several times over. I've had infections. Now, sometimes you'll just suffer with an infection and eventually get better, and that's not ideal, but you don't necessarily die. I have had infections that moved so fast, it was fucking scary. For example, at one point, I had an injury that ruptured a lymph node. And as you may know, the lymph node is part of the lymphatic system that takes the plasma and the loose gunk, but also the pathogens that are filtered out of the blood because they're clumped up by antibodies and white cells and all this shit to render them useless, and it pulls them out of the bloodstream to be processed and recycled and remove the toxins and all that crap. So when one ruptures, it just dumps raw toxins into your body, including lots of bacteria and pathogens that aren't actually dead, but were only subdued. And so it was like multiple infections suddenly got loose all at the same time. And it like within the first day, it looked like a necrotic sore. It was like a big old freaking blister that was black. By the second day, it was twice the size. There was a red ring around it, and there was blood oozing out of the pores. And at that rate, at another day, it would have covered half my fucking chest. So I got my hands on some emergency antibiotics, and they gave me a massive dose.
Yeah. Something really similar happened to me almost 20 years ago now. Is I was actually in New Mexico, and I ended up getting the freaking plague while I was there. I came in, I felt, I usually have a relatively low body temperature, so, and I almost never spike a fever. I had COVID and I didn't spike a fever. So when I spiked a fever, I was really freaked out about it. So we went to the hospital and the doctor ran like several tests, and then he was like, "Have you been in the desert recently?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Have you been around a dog that's been in the desert?" Yes. Tested me and everybody else at the house. It was me and my ex-sister-in-law, and we both had it. So they were able to get some stuff on board real quick to help knock that out before it got any worse. But yeah, it was that was scary. It's something scary when they tell you you have the Black Death.
Yeah,
you have the plague. So yeah, we have an actual plague survivor on the show, which is fucking wild.
I'm getting from cat saliva. I didn't know that. So no.
It always made, it always made me, it always made a really good icebreaker in like my college classes and stuff when they go around and you say your name. I'm like, "I'm Lil and I've had the plague," and everybody would be like, "What?" So then I would have to tell what happened, but yeah.
Oof. Who says I got it in high school? It's the sickest I've ever been in my life. I was literally
I didn't even know people could get it
for a week,
even
with antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know people could have, the technology and stuff. That it was hard to get it now. But
the one saving grace to the plague.
Yeah, I was still pretty sick for about a week, but we caught it really, really early, and it was right at the tail end of the outbreak. So the doctors in the ER knew what was going on. So
that's fucking wild.
So I ended up getting very lucky. Yeah, I ended up getting very, very lucky.
I know we live in an age when the fucking plague is back. Holy crap. Go.
It's been here since it's been here since the early 1900s. It came in through San Francisco, and it's endemic in the Southwest now. So all the groundhogs and prairie dogs out there carry it.
Amazing. Remind me to get vaccinated before the next time I travel in that direction. But the good news is that it's one of those rare, super deadly things that happens to be bacterial rather than, say, viral or fungal. And so antibiotics generally will at least keep you from dying. Generally.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough. It's oof. Yes, I know the plague never went away. It's not like smallpox where we exterminated it despite our samples in the lab, which we've then released in order to study how the samples move through populations. But never mind that, we didn't actually put an effort in to kill it off. It's just the fact it still keeps popping up is a problem.
I don't think it's even possible to really kill it off because it still has animal reservoirs. One thing about smallpox is it was only contagious from human to human. So that's one reason that it was easy enough to knock that one out. There's not a whole lot of diseases that you can really knock out like that. But smallpox was thankfully one of them.
Now you've got me questioning how exactly we went about confirming that it was eradicated. Because, like, I understand there's a couple different...
They've monitored it for years.
Yeah, like no new case is reported.
Yeah,
for
the
example.
last one was either, I want to say in the early, I think it was in the 70s. I don't remember the exact dates, but it was a couple years later that the last known case was a case of somebody who caught it from a lab, but that's the last known case of it anywhere.
Yeah.
But they did a very good job of, when they would find a case of it, they would vaccinate basically in rings out from that person for anybody who had contact, and essentially didn't give it anywhere to spread to. There's been a few books and a few documentaries on it. It's a really cool story though, on how they managed to finally get rid of this thing that had been the scourge of humanity for ages. I mean, they have proof of smallpox on like ancient Egyptian mummies, and it was one of those things that before modern times, basically, you were assumed to have survived it. If you were an adult, you were assumed to have survived it already.
I mean, that's one way to handle it. I've heard of other different political entities at different times. Whenever there was an outbreak of anything, they would just use the military to close off the village and burn the whole thing. Just like kill everyone,
Yeah,
to save everyone else. Which it's morally dubious, but from a practical standpoint, often effective. Speaking of morality,
yeah,
I'm like looking for a bridge to get back to the topic. We do tangent a lot around here. People come here for the tangents. And if you're new here,
all about a tangent.
We do tangents quite a lot. If you're down for tangents, make sure to hit the subscribe button, because we're trying to grow. We're trying to, make a bigger show, reach more people, help people where possible, do a little learning, a little fun, all the good things, and build a community of wonderful people. So I hope you'll join us. If you're watching in the future, we're live every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So yeah, push the buttons, not just subscribe. Hit the like, use the share, do all the things. I appreciate it.
But throughout most of human history, child mortality was at 50%. So what that means is 50%, half of all children died before they reached their fifth birthday. So
I mean, it's a supreme oversimplification to say through all of history, child mortality was 50%. Which parts of history, which nations, which cultures, which people, which medical practice, all the things. You can't just take all of history and bundle it and say 50%. Because remember, there's a huge part of history where child mortality was post-birth abortions. By the Christians, no less. The Christians, Constantine himself had to issue an imperial edict saying, people, stop giving birth to babies and then chucking them into the woods. Exposure type thing. Stop doing that. It's not cool. Because it happened so frequently in the Christian Roman Empire. And every 40 years or so, a pope would have to make another decree, because the people never stopped doing that. They kept doing that right up until the early 20th century. My grandmother remembered people doing that, having unwanted babies, putting them in sacks and chucking them in the river like they were drowning unwanted kittens, because there wasn't safe access to abortion. Weirdly enough.
So most usually it was disease. You died of diarrhea, dehydration, an infection you couldn't fight off. That'd be probably when you were an infant. A lot of times, I mean, I have toddlers. This is sad to think about, but kids are inquisitive. Probably accidents, falling into rivers, falling into fires, choking on things. That children, half of all children before the age of 5. And here's a graph to show it from our world in data. It might be kind of hard to see, but these are the two different lines. This is the infant mortality rate, dying in the first year of life. And these are years down here. So we go all the way back to like the ancient world up until this is 2017 and 1900. Right.
This is interesting. Let's bigify this so we can get a closer look. Anytime somebody shows me a graph that has a straight line, despite data points being all over the damn place, I'm a little suspicious.
Just a little?
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
It's, I mean, it's not just a smooth graph to like even out the things. It's, the line has no relationship to the data. The data is doing nothing to move the line.
And,
someone just drew a line.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Pretty much, yeah.
Over here. So this is the 20th century at the end of the graph. And you'll see that infant mortality
That he hasn't. One point that he hasn't. But what about all the women in labor and childbirth that could have been saved if they did not have that kid in the first place?
Well, that's one part of the argument that Trent will never fucking touch, because even if, like, ostensibly Trent, because this is the position he ties himself to with these arguments, but the Catholic Church generally, the life of the mother is less important than the life of the baby. But what about the other baby?
And see, this is the argument that I make when. Yeah, this is the argument that I make whenever anybody does that. I've literally had people say like, "Oh, well, that doesn't really happen anymore." I'm like, okay, so I should have left my 2 boys orphans without a father and without a mother because their dad ran off. And they usually don't have something to come back with that, because after I had my youngest, if I would have had another one, my doctor told me, he's like, there is a high probability you're going to have some very serious complications and it will possibly kill you. So don't do it. And I said, okay, fine. And like, it was put to me the point of, you are risking your life if you get pregnant again, period. And so, yeah, like I took the advice. I didn't have any more kids, and I have 2 wonderful boys that I love and adore. And there is nothing in the world that would make me orphan them for a kid that may or may not be, because I might drop dead before they're even viable. Like, where's the trade-off there? There is none.
Mm-hmm. You can't take the existing kids out of the equation and the risk of depriving them of their mother, or the possibility of future kids, because while, you know, in some cases you can never get pregnant again because of damage and other things resulting from that first pregnancy going so very wrong, but in some cases you can, like if you have one of those babies like Trent described earlier, where they form without a brain entirely, not viable whatsoever. That doesn't mean you can never have another baby who does develop correctly and has the potential to actually have a life. So to risk the life of the mother on a fetus with 0 possibility of survival is
exactly.
It's not just immoral. It's also very stupid.
That's pretty much exactly what's going on here, where Texas has a life of the mother exception, but it is so vague that I have known 2 women that were having major complications that they went to the hospital. And if this was several years ago, yeah, we need to end this, we need to get this done. Doctors wouldn't touch them this time because for like 99 years for doing this. No. And it's just like, it's a mess down here. Like, I hate living here sometimes. In the state of Texas, and this tells you about how much they value women, a corpse has more bodily autonomy than I do.
Exactly.
Because you can't take anything from a corpse without their permission before they die, or without their family's permission. I have no right to say what I can and can't do with my body in the realm of a pregnancy here. So a corpse has more bodily autonomy than I do.
Yeah, with regards to it makes me very angry.
It's about 25%, child mortality about 50% until we get to about the 1900s. But that didn't prove that even though children had high mortality rates for most of human history, that didn't prove kids under the age of 5 were not persons. It just proved that they had hazardous lives, and we should.
What do you mean, Trent? You still, society today, this traditionalism, this conservatism, this family values, they don't treat children like full humans. As they frequently say, you don't let kids smoke, you don't let kids get tattoos, which incidentally is not true. There are lots of states where children can get tattoos, especially if the parent signs off on that. But never mind that. Children can't vote. They can't play the lotto. There's a bunch of things children can't do because they're not full adult people. They're potential adults. You believe that trend. You purport that. You support that. You endorse that. You're all about it. The fuck do you mean to sit here now and say, oh, but these people treat them like they're not fully human? Do that.
It's just more proof that they only care up until the second that the baby is born, and after that, whatever happens at that point. But they only care up to a certain point.
It's
I mean,
another
they're
level
not
of dishonesty. And in fairness to Trent, it may not be something he has fully thought through, but the political position is intentionally dishonest. It's rhetorical. It's, you know, in this context where we want control of women, then children have all the rights of a fully sentient, grown human being capable of making their own decisions. But when it comes to controlling children rather than women, then, children aren't capable of making decisions and have to be deprived of all these assorted rights and effectively be the property of their parents for legal and medical purposes. It's a glaring double standard. It's incredible cognitive dissonance to hold both of those arguments in your head at the same time. But the workaround is, if you just don't think about the entailments of the things you're saying, you never have to confront that contradiction.
Yeah, this is why I completely refuse to call them pro-life. They're anti-choice. That's all it is.
Pro-life.
They're not pro-life at all.
No.
Yeah, they're not at all. They're anti-choice and anti-women. That's it.
That in and of itself is political rhetoric. Because, I mean, okay, so back in the early 2000s, when I didn't have a very strong stand on the issue, I personally leaned slightly pro-life, but I had an even stronger position, for lack of a better term, that the government should not be able to tell individual people what's right for them, right? Like, I could be pro-life. Another person could be pro-choice. We can disagree. We can make our own choices based on how we feel, but it should not be the place of the government to tell either of us what we have to do in that very, very personal situation, which effectively made me pro-choice.
Yeah.
But
this is pretty much exactly what happened with when I was explaining this to my oldest son, which I have my grandkid through. I was like, look, here's the point of being pro-choice. You, or more specifically, the mother of my grandson, she gets to decide what she wants to do. She didn't make the same choice I did, but she can make that choice. She is free to make that choice. Whereas not giving the choice at all is not pro-life. It's just not giving the choice at all is anti-choice and anti-women. It really is at the core of it. And yeah, I get it's political rhetoric, but it's also completely true
from a certain point of view. But the thing of it is, because I like to understand why people believe what they say they believe, I tried to get a view from what I perceived to be the other side at the time, and then turn around and try to get a deeper understanding of what I perceived to be my own side. And it turned out that the vast majority of pro-choice people do not, in fact, want to bathe in the blood of the unborn to power satanic rituals. No one wants that, but that's how it's represented on the pro-life side politically. That's why they say we're pro-life. We're against
it's
babies.
one of those.
Similarly, though not to the same extent, on the pro-choice side, there's this idea that women must be stapled to beds and forced to breed as the inevitable outcome of the pro-life side, and no one on the pro-life side. Well, I can't say no one anymore, but at the time, several decades ago, no one on the pro-life side felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
It just,
I mean, this is the thing that kind of threw my son off when I told him, and I was like, no, you can be pro-life and pro-choice, because you personally could say, no, I'm not ever doing that. That's not my choice. I'm not doing that. But still support the right for other people to make the choice about their own lives and for the government to stay the hell out of it. It ain't that hard.
But it,
like, it's not. You can hold your own beliefs, but still say the government should not be telling women what they can and cannot do.
But it's even deeper. Like, they're even trying to stop certain kind of birth control and everything. Like, and that's where it gets crazy. So
Yeah.
you're trying to really
ultimately, and that's another layer of dishonesty and transposition. He's not saying, he's not outright saying, but because he's a Catholic apologist, his actual position is all birth control is wrong, period. He is using abortion as a slippery slope step on his way to all birth control is bad. He just won't outright say that, because it makes it clear that his argument is coming from a dishonest position in the first place. But not being upfront about that is itself a dishonest position. I'm upfront about my position. I think everyone should have the right to bodily autonomy. That includes not just reproductive rights, but also whether you even conceive in the first place. People have the right to contraception. In fact, I will go even farther and say that in this age, when we do have a overpopulation problem, despite what the white nationalists like to say about, oh no, we need brown people because we don't have a replacement rate, the planet is overpopulated. We went way past the limit. We did it through science. We did it through technology, but we did it. And now we're in trouble. So I would go so far as to say that everyone should have available, from the time they're 18, if not before, the choice to sterilize. Not necessarily permanent sterilization. Like tubal ligation can be reversed. Vasectomies can be reversed. These things should be available. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say they should be mandated, though we're quickly approaching the point that may be an option on the table, because we are so vastly overpopulated and it keeps getting worse. But at least it should be an option. If people are like, I'm checking out, I don't ever want to reproduce even by accident, they should have the damn option. So yeah, that's my radical position.
You should have the option to make the own choices.
In order to get tubal ligations reversed, that's really hard and highly expensive. Now the vasectomies a little different. But yes.
Because I got a tubal when I was 21. 21, right after I had my second son, because of the risk of me getting pregnant again. It took 6 months, my doctor going to, I think, his hospital board and basically arguing my case because they would not let him do it until I had 3 kids and I was over the age of 28. And then they said, fine, you can do it, but you need her husband's permission. He had to sign off on it. This was in 2006.
I tried to get one after I had 2 kids. And they were like, well, you might get married and this and this and this. And then when I had my 5th child, that's when they finally approved me to have it. But, you know.
The blue states do that too.
Yeah.
As you know, I live in New York. And after my ex and I had our 3rd child, we wanted to get both of our things snipped. But TLDR, when it came to the tubal, there were criteria: 3 or more kids over the age of 25 and have the man's permission. Need all of those. If there's no man in the picture, tough noogies. You better find a man and get his permission, because you're the property of a man, even if you haven't met him yet. Even in New York. Super.
I remember my mom talked about wanting an abortion when she was pregnant with my brother because of how my father was acting in an abusive relationship, and she was trying to go to like Ohio. I think Ohio was approved, but Michigan wasn't. But she eventually, kept them. But she was like, even at that time, that she had to ask the husband and everything. That's crazy. For my body, I gotta ask somebody else permission. I never would understand that.
Yeah. And that will come up in a future video, as we do have a lot more things planned. I'm already planned out partway into October, and one of the things coming up has to do with, do we still need feminism? Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons. We don't actually have parity on equal rights yet. There's a few notable things like that where women are not equal with men.
I never will be. I'm a black, queer, atheist woman. I would never have rights.
I don't know that we'll ever, at least in our lifetimes, reach a point where we can just pass the simple, easy, common sense, to borrow that phrase from the right-wingers, legislation, to just have like a constitutional amendment or a UN mandate or something that says all humans have human rights. Period. One sentence, 5 words. That's it. Nope, we can't. Nope. It's more complicated than that, Amber. We have to oppress the women, or what will become of our society? We have to oppress different racial groups, because, then what about the white people? Won't someone think of the white children? Oh, good. I'm going to get myself branded a terrorist. Oh, Jester says,
at the very least, no, they won't do it. But
I would appreciate that, Jester. Thankfully, that issue has already been taken care of. Not exactly the way I wanted or in accord with what I might predict, but yeah, we don't have to worry about that anymore. But I appreciate it.
Do our best to remove the hazards, not justify directly killing them. So let's continue with the argument.
And you literally, or you apparently literally don't know what you're talking about. And so when it comes to women's rights with respect to their reproduction, I think you should leave it to women. It's really, you cannot help but notice. I'm not the first guy to observe this. You have a lot of men of European descent passing these extraordinary laws based on ignorance.
And that's a solid point. I know Trent's going to make some static in a second, but do remember, we live in a world where actual elected representatives in the United States Senate say things like, well, if it's a legitimate rape, the woman's body has a way of shutting that whole thing down. Or people who think that tampons are sex toys, or people who think that having your period is a choice, or people who think that the clitoris is a myth. They literally know nothing about women's bodies, but they still want to pass legislation about them. It's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but somebody put a post and it was like, looking how stupid, I can't say that, but about what things women should not do. Even if your man cheats on you, you shouldn't go off and leave him. And I was like, are you serious? I can't think of that tangent post that they put down, but it was all things that women shouldn't do. But it was okay for a man to do those same things. It's like, I'm tired of the double standardness in the society.
Yeah. There's a huge double standard.
Can you
and the thing, like, you see how unequal it is, even with it's a double standard, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but hear me out. Something as simple as pockets, because women's jeans and women's slacks and shorts, we don't have the pocket space to put anything. Whereas you see a guy's jeans, they have huge pockets to put everything. They can put their phone in their front pocket. We sure as hell can't. And it's like, it's a big deal. You see such a big deal when people make dresses and skirts that have pockets, that it's just,
yeah, we get excited.
And that's a little thing where the inequality shows up. But if the inequality shows up so simply in something like that, it just tells you how big the inequality is on bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger issues.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I touch on something very real. I've mentioned before, when my oldest was about 11, at 12, I think, because they didn't get a phone until they were 12. And then only that early because I was going over the road and they needed a way to be able to get in touch with me that didn't go through their other parent, who is not super reliable. But never mind that. Got a phone, age 12, tried to put it in a pants pocket, and it went in like that far, and the whole rest of it was sticking out. And they just looked down at that and looked up at me and said, "This is why we need feminism." I'm like, "You're damn right."
Yeah, and I mean, it's become, especially like online and in various boards and stuff. I mean, it's become a little bit of a joke about the pockets thing, but it really does illustrate the bigger point of, if this is a problem, what else is a huge problem?
Yeah, I've been trying to think of like specific things that from a practical standpoint a man can do but a woman shouldn't, or vice versa.
Walk down the street at night?
Well,
walk down the street?
I tend to walk at night, and yeah, there's some dangers, but there's weirdly fewer dangers that are often easier to spot. But I won't get into that right now because it's a tangent upon a tangent.
Yeah.
But the main thing that came to mind was P standing up.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's a mess. You're going to have to clean it up, and nobody wants that. Although arguably men shouldn't be standing up either, because it's often a mess that someone needs to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
I had bought one of those cup things when you out. That don't really work either, though.
Oh, the pouches and whatnot.
Well, you know, it kind of is supposed to fit. You can
which...
use the bathroom standing up, like if you're out and about. Like I used to do, like a lot of hiking and stuff. So you could, like the little cup thing, you could put it on your.
Yeah, they need to be high capacity. I don't know. Farm says apparently the ladies have a purse. What the actual fuck? We do, but here's the thing: nobody's stopping you from carrying a purse. You could, in fact,
they call it man bags
because they're fucking fabulous. I mean, not only do you get extra storage space for all your assorted stuff, but as I was telling my son this past weekend, even though I was wearing an outfit that had pockets, I already had my wallet in my purse. I had my sunglasses in my purse. I had my car keys in my purse. So all I had to do was grab my purse and go, because it was already, stuff was already in it, right? I didn't have to load up my pockets. Mm-hmm. So there's a plus right there. Even if you have pockets, all your stuff is already in the bag and you just take the whole bag.
I'm a fanny pouch kind of person. Go around your waist. So I just put that on and I be gone. I don't when I wear purses sometimes.
Yeah, but then sometimes you don't want to deal with the hassle of a bag.
Yeah, I just put that fanny pouch on.
It's true too. Sometimes if I'm going to the grocery store and I know, because we don't have plastic bags here in New York, so you have to carry the big old cloth sacks with you whenever you go. Okay. If I know that I'm gonna need like both hands for bags and I don't want to fuck with my purse, I'll take my wallet out and shove it into whatever passes for a pocket and whatever I'm wearing. Or I'll just go to Walmart because I can pay with my phone. And I still need my license to drive there, but I don't need the whole wallet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, oh, goodness. Dr. Mordecai,
that's one reason why
not get knocked up. You know, that's the choice of each individual man. I've known a couple of men who either had a pregnancy and were surprised or had a pregnancy and were thrilled. It varies. There can be complications from hormones, depending on a lot of things. You definitely want to consult with your physician, your endocrinologist, and probably others. But I mean, why not? if that's a thing you're looking for. Some people want to have kids by the way that's available to them.
All right, so this is an ad hominem fallacy, unless it's just an irrelevant observation. So either Bill Nye is making a kind of a racist, irrelevant observation, or he's making a logical fallacy. If he's saying that pro-life...
Pointing out that white, European, cis hetero men tend to have a lot of opinions about laws that should govern women's bodies, making that observation, that demonstrably true observation, is an ad hominem or is racist? Like, it's an observation, my guy. Yes, it wasn't necessary for him to say white or European or however the fuck he phrased it, but it's still true. It's not saying that there's something wrong with white people or white people should be oppressed because of it. What do you mean, Trent? You're mischaracterizing the argument. Also, ad hominem is saying the argument is wrong because of who is saying it. Like, oh, well, you're a bald person. What would you know about hair care products? That sort of thing.
Are wrong because they're white men. Well, clearly that's a fallacy. A person's argument, its truth, doesn't depend on who's making the argument. It depends on the evidence for and against it. So we should
right. He's not saying that the men's regulation of women's bodies is wrong because it's men. He's saying because they're men, they don't automatically understand what they're talking about, and the evidence bears that out. It's fun that Trent selectively understands fallacies because he's super honest.
Judge a person's argument based on the merits of the reasoning behind it, not on their skin color or gender or whatever that may be. Or if it's just an observation he's making, it's just kind of racist. Like, why does that matter? Why do you have to bring that up? Once again, we should judge people based on the positions they put forward, not by things about them they can't change, like their race, for example. Also, he's wrong when he says, well, we should just let...
No, Trent. We're not judging people by the positions they put forward. We're judging the positions based on the arguments and evidence they put forward. And also, I'd remind everyone of the fallacy. Even if it were true that Nye's statement contained a fallacy, that does not automatically mean he's wrong. You still have to demonstrate, A, that he's wrong, and B, that you're right. And neither of those is being done here.
Women decide. Well, if that's the case, when you look at polls on who identifies as pro-choice and who identifies as pro-life, actually women are more likely to identify as pro-life than men. If you see here in this Gallup poll.
Is it a Gallup poll? I don't see a citation. Remember, rule 3, check the sources. Where's the citation? Does it pan out? He says it's a Gallup poll, but what it says is American self-identified position on abortion 2019. Why did we go back to 2019? Have things changed since then in an unfavorable way? But whatever. According to this poll, who knows what the selection criteria, if it were Gallup, maybe it's more reliable, but who the fuck knows? But whatever.
More men identify as pro-choice than pro-life, whereas women are more likely to identify as pro-life than pro-choice. Now, of course, that doesn't prove who.
Again, who? Selection. Assuming, taking at face value that this is correct, which I don't. But if we did, for the sake of argument, so what? Who's picking? Is it a survey of Catholic people? Is it a survey of the broad population? Who is being asked? How many people are involved?
Yeah.
We need data in order to determine the validity, the significance of these statistics. But also, remember, there's that political rhetoric involved, that misrepresentation, where a lot of people think pro-life is, do you yourself think you would ever get an abortion? Not, should the government have a say over who gets an abortion or not? Because if you talk to pro-life women, the vast majority will say, I think abortion is not right. But if you say, do you think the government should have the ability to compel you to have a baby, to compel any woman to have a baby, they will tell you no, because the version of pro-life they've been pitched is not the same as the political position.
Yeah.
Who's right just because you do a poll, but it kind of upends this narrative that pro-lifers are just a bunch of white men trying to boss everyone around, when women are more likely to be pro-life than men. In fact, you go back to the very first feminists. This is Alice Paul, who helped to spearhead the movement to secure the right to vote for women. You think also Susan B. Anthony and others, they believed abortion was wrong, that abortion was akin to child murder. It was a crime against.
Now, this is almost masterful, because it's a double attack from Trent, right? It's like, either you believe the first wave feminists, who had a lot of problems. Some of them were eugenicists. A bunch of them were really, really racist, which is why we needed the second wave for racial equality. That's why different women of different races have gotten the vote at different times in history, but never mind that. Or you have to, as Trent is presenting it, you have to take the position that the first wave feminists were wrong, and therefore women shouldn't be making decisions about their own lives either.
Yeah.
Against children and a crime against women. So the very first feminists were actually pro-life themselves as well. So, so I think
this is cherry picking, because a couple of first wave feminists were pro-life, as it would be characterized today, means all feminists, at least in the first wave, were pro-life. No, that's not how that works.
That's something you got to take into account, and Bill Nye has a lot of things he needs to take into account.
And also, even if they were, that doesn't mean they were correct, because once again, very racist, many pro-eugenics, and other various faults in their positions.
He hasn't totally thought through on these issues.
Sorry, you guys. I know it was written, or your interpretation of a book written 5,000 years ago, 50 centuries ago.
Well, the New Testament was written 2,000 years ago, and the Old.
Well, that's, as Trent was just saying, an irrelevant thing, because all the pro-life arguments come from the Old Testament, don't they, Trent? The Old Testament, the Torah, the Pentateuch. Granted, they weren't written 5,000 years ago, but they're traditionally held to be roughly 5,000 years old. But details. Bringing up the New Testament is completely irrelevant. It's a red herring at best.
Old Testament, somewhere between 2,500 to 3,500 years ago, based on the documents, but who's counting? And by the way, just because something was written a long time ago doesn't mean that it's wrong. Many of the modern principles we have today about democracy.
No, that's true. Just because something was written a long time ago doesn't mean it's wrong. But to say something is very old and therefore it's automatically right is also wrong. And that's Bill's actual point here. You see the difference between what's actually being said in the straw man in this case, because what Bill is saying is people are pointing at stuff that's thousands of years old and saying, because it's old, it's correct. And he's saying that's not true. Trent is trying to turn it around and saying that calling it incorrect just because it's old is a fallacy, but that's not what Bill's doing. It's the inverse of what Bill's doing.
He is strawmanning the hell out of Nye.
Farm says,
infuriating.
I have a doctor's appointment in Ember's neighborhood very soon. My second PET scan. Hey, PET scans, I mean, first of all, it is unfortunate that you need that kind of medical imaging, but PET scans are pretty fucking cool. Consider they're shooting antimatter into you to create a matter-antimatter annihilation to irradiate you with gamma rays. Yes, it's scary as hell, but how fucking cool is that?
Yeah. It's some really cool physics that goes into PET scans. I love those things.
Yeah. Positron emission tomography. It's wild.
Basic logical thinking from Aristotle, those were written thousands of years ago in ancient Greece, and they're just as true today as they were thousands of years ago when they were written. An argument's truth does not depend on who makes it or how long ago they made it. It depends on the evidence for and against it.
Right. That's correct, Trent. Now, will you apply that statement to your own thinking? Either any of the things you've presented today or the things you purport to believe, like said very old book.
Makes you think that when a man and a woman have sexual intercourse, they always have a baby. That's wrong. And so to pass laws based on that belief is inconsistent with nature.
I'm really baffled by this one. Like, I have never met anyone in my life. I've never met
I have never met a person. Therefore, what I have experienced determines reality for everyone.
What are you gonna say? Never met somebody who never wanted to have relations without wanting to have a child? Is that what he's about to say?
It's like saying, I personally have never been compelled by law to carry an unwanted fetus to term. Therefore, it simply doesn't happen because it didn't happen to me. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyone in my entire life who thinks that every time men and women engage in sexual intercourse, they become pregnant and have a child. I don't, or that the idea that I don't remember a pro-lifer who thinks every time a man and woman engage in sexual intercourse, an egg is fertilized.
That's something that people on your side say often, Trent. That's the basis of abstinence-only education.
Yeah.
Is every single time you get jiggy with it, you're going to produce a baby, which is why you need to never do it. Because that's a risk. I mean, sure, there's a high risk of miscarrying, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of things. But, like, it is taught in schools in the U.S. today that every single time you have sex, a sperm fertilizes an egg.
Yeah, that's the way that was taught in my high school sex ed. That literally, if you have sex, you're going to get pregnant, and then you are going to die of AIDS or some other horrible STD. That was the extent of like my sex ed in private school, and I know out of that class alone, I know at least 10 girls who did not get out of college without having a kid.
I mean,
it's
pretty wild.
They didn't.
I mean, a bunch of us went to high school with people who were pregnant in high school or dropped out to have a baby. It's just it happens, and they weaponize that. They say, look at all these girls that had to drop out to have babies or whatever the case may be. But I had a version of that in public school in New York. It wasn't quite that severe. We did look into some other things, like here's what syphilis looks like, here's what genital warts look like, but it's all along the lines of you don't want this, and there's a very high chance you'll catch it. And when you add up the probabilities, like maybe it's only a 1 in 10 chance you'll catch herpes and 1 in 5 chance you'll catch AIDS or whatever the case may be. But when you add them all up, it's pretty close to 100% chance. And do you really want to take that risk of having your genitals permanently mutilated by a disease or just possibly outright killing you? I mean, it's really close to 100%. Never mind.
Yo, everything okay?
Kid tried to get in my lap and then fell off.
Oh, I thought you were being raptured.
Yeah, we're good.
I was like, oh shit, the rapture's happening.
No, she tried to jump in my lap and like knocked over my desk.
Oh, little cute.
Oh my god. I'll be back in just a second.
I remember.
Oh my god, kid.
Lil getting raptured live on Hot Topic.
I remember.
Let's take a quick break. I'll play my 42-second thing about apologists being hilarious.
It was actually a tremendous blessing to these children for them to be killed and go to heaven and be with God.
Carl, that kills people. I have a problem with this stuff being normalized across the spectrum. And specifically, like, why push this on kids? Why introduce this to kids?
I want to be ignorant, honestly.
If God is not good, then guess what? We are all absolutely screwed.
Stop letting people pressure you into thinking.
And that's good advice. We mustn't let anyone pressure us into thinking.
Yeah, but I was saying was I remember when I had my first child, and so I needed help getting some services, like they have like beds and whatever things you needed. But the organization before you got help, you had to watch this video that went through a description and graphic video of abortion, and also sexually infected diseases, how people looked when they had like warts and all that kind of stuff. So you have to watch those videos in order to receive help from this agency.
Yeah, you gotta know all the my fucking. So abortion access is, we don't have like coverage for it by law, but access to it is protected in the New York State Constitution in a couple of different ways. But the fact you can access it doesn't mean that individual providers aren't going to do, let's say, extra legal things. For example, with my youngest, ectopic situation, abdominal pregnancy, which is a very, very high risk situation, right? Like there's a really high chance of miscarriage, a stupidly high chance of parental mortality. It's not great. And so a lot of doctors will recommend termination so you don't die. And before they could make that recommendation, in certain hospitals, certain providers, certain circumstances, they will do an ultrasound so that you have to look at your embryo and see how human it looks before you make the decision whether to terminate or not. Like, it's not banned by law, so it's kind of in a gray area, but it's straight up emotional manipulation. Now,
I'm glad my doctor,
as I said earlier, on a personal level, I've always been pro-life, and so that wasn't really, I thought long and hard about it, partly because of the risks and partly because of how the situation originated, but yeah, it just wasn't on the table in that case. But the fact that they make you do an ultrasound before they inform you, there's a really high chance of miscarriage and that this will kill you. So maybe you should probably terminate. You know, the fact you have to look at your fetus first is just more than a little manipulative. Are you feeling better, Lil? Have you come back from the afterworld?
Oh my god. No, Dr. Kip tried to jump in my lap, and when she did, she knocked my desk really hard.
Poor baby.
And didn't quite make it.
She just wanted love from her mommy. Oh, she wanted.
And also, look what came in today.
Oh, hey, I thought you changed your shirt real quick, but I couldn't tell what it was.
Yeah, I've been sitting here waiting for it.
Oh, cool. So you were the person that purchased. I need to get on the bandwagon and purchase mine as well.
Second, actually.
I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, second. Okay.
That's right. There's more than one person who's just here for the tangent. So get your gear, get your shirts, and hoodies and stickers and all the things. There's a store tab apparently here on YouTube. There's a store link on my website. In fact, I will just show you right now because I have this pulled up for later in the show.
They deliver super.
Hell yeah.
Lovely picture.
That's awesome to hear. So this is, the website betterthennumber.com where you can find all my links. But if you go to the menu down at the bottom here, store tab, and it'll open up a new tab with the store. And we have a store. We have the shirt you just saw. I'm just here for the tangents. We have hoodies that are available in multiple colors. I made them as cheap as I possibly could, just because I'm poor and I understand a lot of other people may be too. So if you want to send me money to support the show, to support my efforts, or just help me be able to eat food now and then, buying merch, not the best way to do that. If you want the merch, go ahead and get the merch. But if you want to send me money, there's other ways to do that would be more effective. But they are there, and I'll probably add more stuff over time, as people make it clear exactly what the hell they want. But yes, I'm just here.
I ordered.
Yeah,
I ordered mine on Sunday, and it got here today. They're actually apparently they're based right outside Dallas, and this is a hoodie, the blue one.
Oh, you got a hoodie also?
I got a hoodie too. Of course I did.
Of course.
We're about the 2 weeks I'll be able to wear it down here.
Support,
Yeah.
support.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I have.
I've already gotten recognized from Dr. Kip's shirt in my little town, and so I'm hoping somebody's gonna recognize me with this one too. Yeah, he saw, hey, Dr. Kip on the back of my, or Kip Davis on the back of his, because his shirt says Kip Davis on YouTube. And I turn around and be like, that's awesome. I'm like, go to his merch store and get it. It's awesome.
Hell yeah.
So,
yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I would be very surprised if anybody, even in a major city, recognized stuff from this channel. But you never know. I mean, there's a few thousand people spread out over the billions upon the earth. But, you know, yeah. Tsumami wants a crucifix-shaped adult toy. I'm not sure I can put that in that particular store, but I'll see what I can do.
So y'all know that code works.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. I know. I tested that one out myself, you know, for science.
Yeah, I was like, wait, does it work? It does work. So
and they do somewhere around here. Oh, I've got too many things. But I have a little card. So when you order from Brentley's website, they send you a little card. I don't know if I can find it because there's too much stuff here. Yeah, just take my word for it for the moment. They include a card with your package, and that's how you get your 6 free movies. Is you get like a QR code or a website or something, and it lets you access like this secondary website where they keep the adult programming.
I was say what? Oh, that okay. Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
What kind of movies? But you.
So that's how they do that. I was wondering. I'm like, are they gonna throw DVDs in the box or something? Because I don't have a DVD player anymore. Like nothing I own plays DVD.
And even then, like, what are they doing? Just like a random assortment, or do they ask you what you're into?
They didn't ask me, but I'm like, you know. But with the code, it was free shipping. It was fast. It did include the thing. It probably that's what the free gifts are too. And I just haven't, because I don't really, not to be all Puritan or whatever, I'm just not really into adult films. So I just never looked, you know.
I'm just curious. I would have wanted just to see. Even if I wouldn't be interested, I'd just be like, okay, let me see what this is about. Probably been some boring stuff anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it works. So that's good to know. I was thinking of doing a discount code for this thing, because that would be a great perk to offer members. You know, something like a discount on merch, but I'd have to raise the prices so much just to offer a discount that it was stupid. I'm like, nah, fuck it. We're not doing that. not with this store at this time anyway.
I mean, maybe there's someone out there who's grossly ignorant to biology who thinks that, but from practical experience, pro-lifers know, people know that sometimes when you engage in sexual intercourse, no conception happens. You may not be ovulating at the time, and be a whole host of reasons. So I don't get where he's getting this observation that there are these people out here that ignorant, because that's not the case. That's what we call a caricature or a straw man of someone's position, rather than
oh, he knows what a straw man is, except not, because that's not the case Bill was making. But never mind.
It reminds me of people throwing out ad hominem when it's not an ad hominem. Like, don't throw that out unless you know what you're using it for.
Yeah, people who know the term but not what it actually means. Although, in fairness, everybody can fall victim to that. The difference is whether you're willing to learn and do better, or double down on your misunderstanding and pretend you're correct anyway.
An accurate representation of it. And I try very hard. I believe in accurately representing the best pro-choice arguments that are out there.
Do you? Because you haven't been doing a very good job. Every part of this so far has been not only dishonest, but intentionally dishonest, engineered in a dishonest way. So do you, or is that just does Trent not realize what he's doing is dishonest? Does he not understand what dishonesty means? Or is he just straight lying to his audience, knowing he's been deceptive this entire time?
Yeah.
It
reminds me of when the whole debate was coming up a while back, that people were like, well, who, I forgot who it was. I want to say it was said in Project 2025, but it might have been said by somebody who was associated with it. But said something along the lines of there need to be more. Basically, we need to do this to get more kids adopted. And how many children are up for adoption or in foster care now?
That's a good
question. Go take care of them, and then you can argue we need kids for adoption.
They don't care about
kids. No.
That's a sad thing, because
that was one of their actual arguments.
You're trying to cut food stamps, medical, and other things. And I look many times. I look at, and I have a whole tangent about the CPS system and stuff like that, but I won't go into that right now. However, many times they will take children from minority groups. And then, so then the foster parent will get a check for the children, which is more than what the mother would get if they were just receiving assistance. And then they'll get food stamps, medical, everything. It's just funny how things are.
Quick Google search. According to the National Council for Adoption, there are 120,000 children in the U.S. right now in the foster care system waiting for permanent adoption. This is not the same as the total children who are in the foster care system, because not everyone in foster care is out to be adopted. But the ones who are in there pending adoption, 120,000. So there's that.
Yeah, because I had a friend, she couldn't have any children, so her and her husband, they had decided to adopt. And she said that she really feels that the lady who lost her children should have not lost her children, that she was railroaded because she was a Black woman. You know, and she has it open where she can see her children. You know, that's how she set it up. Because I think she should see her children. It was very wrong.
Yeah, that is one big plus of doing like private adoptions. Like if you're in a situation like that intersex person we played the short vertical video of last week, the intersex man who happened to get pregnant, even though he theoretically wasn't supposed to be able to get pregnant, and ended up giving up his baby for adoption because he was very young and also dealing with a bunch of things and etc. With my youngest, I ended up arranging, because there's no fucking way I can care for a child right now, you know? So I ended up arranging with a gay couple who wanted to have a child, but obviously couldn't in the normal fashion, and they didn't have the money for a surrogate, but they did have the money to be able to take care of a child. They seem like nice people. And because I arranged it, I'm still able to be part of the child's life, even if I'll be like anti-M instead of, but you know. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm adopted. Yeah, like I'm adopted. I was adopted at 2 months, and my mother wanted an open adoption, but because I was not born in 1985, I was 3 days short of that.
Wow.
It's a closed adoption. I have tried going to court about 7 times, and every single time they have turned me down for me to see my adoption records to find out who my birth mother is. And the adoption agency that they went through is requiring me to go out there and go through like 3 days of like psychological discussion and testing and crap to figure out if I'm mature enough to know the information about my birth mother. And I'm just like, I am 40 freaking years old. I think I'm mature.
And you're a grandma?
I haven't been able to
find... If you're not mature now, you ain't never gonna get mature.
Yeah. I have been trying to get this done for the last 20 years, and I can't. So I don't know what I'm going to do at this point. I mean, I can't keep going to court because that cost me just for that judge, and that judge is known to be a hard ass to say, no, you're not getting this. Like, I would have to have like a severe medical issue that,
like if you need like a kidney or something.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, basically.
An
But yeah,
interesting
they're like, no,
exception.
we're not doing this.
When I was growing up.
Yeah, and I even tried the last time I tried using the excuse of like, look, I've had these health conditions. I have no idea what my family history says, and what my family history says could help with managing these conditions. She looked at it, she's like, no. I was 3 days short. If I was born on January 1st, it wouldn't be a problem. But since I was born on December 28th, it's a problem. It's so stupid.
Arbitrary lines like that often are
sometimes
difficult. But it's also another big problem with our system that there's so much that's at the whim of whoever's deciding. Like if the judge decides to be a hard ass or not, like they can just do that. Like we talk about how this country is a nation of laws, rule of law, everything fair, whatever. But there's so much that's discretionary where the judge can just be like, yeah, we're going to do this way, but not for you. For you, because I don't like you or my personal beliefs or whatever the case, we're going to do this other thing instead. Like that's not fairness under the law. That's and it gets justified, you know, like, oh, well, people voted for that judge, so the public feels these decisions are what should be done. We don't hold a fucking election every time a person goes on trial, right? Like they're supposed to follow the law. That should be the it drives me fucking batty. And really quick, like Mind Finish Socks says, don't make a straw man claim about straw manning. Like and share the stream instead, which is good advice. You know, do hit the buttons, hit the like, hit the share. Share is super unutilized. My thing lately is share these videos with someone who might like them or someone who might hate them but could use a dose of facts, like Trent perhaps. Don't send it to Trent. He will not watch. He's only legit. I mean, not to disparage his character any more than he himself is doing, but like many apologists, he will only rebut people with huge followings like Bill Nye to get more eyeballs. He isn't actually interested in honest discourse.
That's the one thing I never understood. And even though I'm coming from a previous evangelical Christian person myself, when the evidence started coming in my face, I started looking at it. Because before I only saw what my pastors, parents, and other religious people said to me. Because, you know, the internet wasn't out and all this other kind of stuff. So I don't understand how many of them can see this evidence and see the experiments and see the data and not even question like, man, I might be wrong. Because there's a lot of things that I learned in school that now you find out is not true. Like I was taught the whole time Pluto was a planet. And people still, oh yeah, Pluto is a planet. Still, you know, I don't know. It just doesn't get to me.
You can call it a planet if you want to. Under the old Greek definition, it is as much as it ever was. It's still a wandering star, even if we can't see it with the naked eye.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. If it's a lot of even medical things that I was taught was okay to do. Like sweet oil in your ear. Now they said it's not good to do that. I did that. My grandma did that to me the whole time I had ear infections.
I've never heard of that. Maybe it was a version, like maybe it started out as honey because honey has antibiotic properties, but people didn't know that, so they thought it was just sweet oil.
That's what you used to put in our ear. Sweet oil, a little bit of sweet oil on the cotton swab or the cotton ball, and you put it in your ear. So you was able to go to the doctor for ear infection. Yeah, but that's what we did in the 80s. I was born late 70s, middle 70s. So in the 80s is what they used to do.
Yeah, I don't. I can only speculate as to why that was a thing. Maybe it was honey, but I wouldn't recommend that because feeding. First of all, you shouldn't be putting extra shit in your ear in the first place. But you definitely, if you have an infection, don't just give them free glucose. Like, here, have some energy, reproduce some more. Well, what could possibly go wrong?
I just looked it up. It looked like it's just olive oil. Why they call it sweet oil, I have no idea. But they call it sweet oil. I just Googled it. But yeah.
I don't know. It seems wacky to me. And I've been fighting ear infections for fucking months now. And the only thing that's actually helped even a little bit is actual antibiotics. But, details. Farm says Pluto is no longer a planet because our moon is significantly larger, and that would make us a binary planet system. That's not why Pluto isn't a planet. And also,
there's 4 criteria.
Yeah, I mean, that's an argument from consequence anyway. Like, I wouldn't like it if our planet were a binary system. Our planet kind of is. I frequently refer to the moon as our co-planet, but whether that's true or not has no bearing on the actual argument. Was we're discovering a whole bunch of objects the same size as Pluto or bigger or close to, but have the same properties, because the old definition was having enough gravity to crush itself into a sphere, which made Ceres, one of the asteroids, a potential planet. It was kind of in a gray area. Also, all the K-belt objects, we're up to dozens at this point that could qualify. So they added that extra term that it has enough gravity to clear out its orbital lane from debris, which is a little bit tricky in and of itself because Jupiter technically doesn't meet that definition. Jupiter has a collection of asteroids at the Trojan points, both before and after its position on the orbital path. They're gravitationally dominated.
Earth usually does too.
They're still in the path. But I digress.
Peter Singer, I'll cite David Boonin. I'll cite these different sources. I just wish pro-choice advocates would do the same thing and take on the best pro-life arguments that are out there.
There are none. He's still Manning. And again, Bill isn't engaging with the concept of pro-life arguments. He's making his own case, which is not the same thing, because this idea that you have to engage with the opposition, this plays into another fallacy. It's the false dichotomy. It's saying either you're right or I'm right. So if I can prove you wrong, I win by default. And that's not how anything works. You still have to provide positive proof for your position. And if you can demonstrate your position is true, you don't have to engage with the other position because it's automatically false. 2 examples. If you can demonstrate the Earth is in fact a sphere, you don't have to disprove flat Earth or cube Earth or donut Earth or any other possible Earth because you have demonstrated the Earth is a sphere. So all the other mutually contradictory propositions are ruled out automatically. This is how we go about proving negatives. People say all the time, you can't prove a negative. The fuck you can't. We do it every single time we demonstrate any positive. All the alternative hypotheses are demonstrated to be false. The negative is proven as an entailment of the positive proof.
I mean,
tangents.
It's hard not to get frustrated with this, everybody. And I know nobody likes abortion, okay?
Why? Why don't people like abortion? If that's the question.
That's a good question. Why don't people like abortion? Nobody's out here going, I mean, there are people dropping shit posts and memes and shit because it's funny, but nobody is actually saying, I can't wait to get an abortion, or I'm going to go out. I had 3 abortions last month. I can't wait to fill up my frequent aborter card so the 10th one is free or what. Like, no one is doing that. Of course, no one likes abortion.
Yeah, that was one thing when I was, pro-life-ish, I guess I would call it, where I would see people who would get a lot of abortions And I was like, okay, I understand things happen. Can we now figure out a proper birth control method for you now? You know, because I did know people that had, if you had like 2 or 3, I'm like, what is going on with you? I did judge people, but how can I talk and I got 5 kids? But, you know, I did like, what are you doing? Why don't you think of another method besides getting an abortion? That was my thing on it. Like, I understand things happen, you have to get one because you made a mistake and you wasn't protected, but then you keep having one. Because I had one girl, she had so many, I don't even know. I had a problem with that.
That's another good point that we can close out on, is that very, very often the people who are the most extreme pro-life and other people who are lesser pro-life, but to point at a specific example of extreme hypocrisy, is the same people saying that no woman should be able to get an abortion will then turn around and themselves get an abortion because they've prohibited access to birth control or whatever. And we even saw it with that Florida state representative who nearly died because of her own anti-abortion regulations.
Wow.
And then blamed the left, of course, even though,
of course. They know it's our fault.
It's fucking wild. But yeah, we do have to close up for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. As always, back on the website, betterthanumber.com, if you go to the creators tab, you will find a list of skeptic and humanist creators. But also, if I make this wider, you will find the Secular Women's Show and Hot Topic cast members. And the whole cast is listed right there. So you can find everybody's links right on the website, betterthanumber.com. All kinds of useful stuff up there, not just the store and my links and things. But yeah, so you can find Lil's links, you can find Kelly's links, you can find Ryan's links, you can find everybody's links. Thank you both for joining me today. It's been an invigorating discussion, shall we say.
Wild ride, yes.
With some dog mayhem thrown in there.
Yeah, the beauty of live broadcast, surprising shit happens all the time.
Yeah, at least you can never say it's boring.
Yeah,
she go over here sleeping.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for tuning in.
The time travelers dropping by. Appreciate the raid. We're about to close up, but you can rewind the show. It's rewatchable. And hello, Titan. And thank you all so much for joining. As always, I appreciate
everybody's kinks.
Input, whether I highlight your comment or not. I like the input. I like the engagement. I like the conversation. I like the jokes. I love all of it. That's why we do live shows. But also, as always, I have to wrap up with the credits, thanking the patrons and top level members, the Cinder level members. I am about to re-record those, the new ones for this month. So if you want to be in the credits that roll this next month, make sure you're a member and that you're at the Cinder level, so that it will be in the list and it'll be in the credits next month. But yeah, thanks to the supporters, because you make this possible. You help me be able to afford electricity so I can do this show. So thanks to you. And as
love
always,
you too, Ryan.
Yay. As always, remember, you don't have to take on Bill Nye and then present literal lies to misrepresent his position, because you are better than religion. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks to the top level members and Patreon supporters for August: Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkisson, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Kalasia, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, The Mighty Filbert, Hunter Biden's Laptops, Larkwright, Greg S., Neurogeezer, Mage Greywolf, Faran Salas, Poor Claire, BTF Wayne, Cosmic Kyle, Bomb Poppy, RDZ, Billy Bongsalot, Marty Cameo, My Unfinished Sock, Austin Sims, Tinker Phil, Anarchic Fox, Sabrina Page, Leslie Hutchings, Gazela Mail, Evil Toe, Right-Handed Sith, Luke, D. Murphy, Jesse, Uncle Charlie, Ryan Coltastic, Karisu Yamato, Scott Duke, Michael Bell, Sumami, Citizen 9, S. Cook, James Nordoff, Hecklek, Velvet, KCA Randy, B.S. Lewis, Tori Swansiger, Whimsy, Kristen Slays, Godless Engineer, Fern Lovebond, Hillhugger, Karen Butcher, Milwaukee Atheists, Booba Sweat, Maya Edkison, My Unfinished Studio, Ian Chen Official, Introvert Ancom, Tilting Windmill, Christopher Tablante, Robin Webster, Proby666, Jason T, Action Squad, Robert Madewell, Doc Don Hogg, Jester, Sydney Raptor, Stardust Lilith, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Jake, insert clever dapper inside joke here, Nelson, Supercritical Snake, Eli Slack, Geo Sam, Kalasia789, L Trucker, You Are Victoria, Polly Has His Cracker, Roman Weber, Leo Filius, Nikki Pare, Jasper, Yahooligan, and Pinworm. Thank you all so much. I feel energized and grateful that you're part of this community. Thank you.
Just like a spark that's breaking out, can't make a stop.